Hey YouTube. This is my first live video on YouTube. I've tried to play with live many times and I could only figure out Facebook. So today I want to go back and talk a little bit about the Coconino County audit. You'll see on the channel with a hands-on where Darren Womble, a new bailiff there at Coconino County, Arizona courthouse, the county courthouse, shoved me out the door. And later, I attempted to press charges on him for assault. The reports were all kicked back to the Flagstaff city attorney, who declined to charge him with assault, but instead decided to charge me with a trespass as well as indirect contempt of court. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that this has been used across other states now. So, and I had never heard of a way to violate First Amendment rights in this manner until County, and they had a very interesting way to do it, um, and basically get away with it. So far, they're getting away with it. So let's get into it. We'll start with the court rule. This rule is Arizona Court Rule 122.1. And what it states basically are the rules of how you can film in a courthouse. You can't film in a courtroom without permission from the judge. You can't film where the juries or jurors might gather. People who use the courthouse and they don't want the public to feel intimidated or uncomfortable when going to do court services. Now, this was extremely controversial back, I think it was Direct D and his guys down there. They went to Mesa Court, and the federal court, the appeals court in Arizona decided that they didn't want anyone filming even outside, even on in the public courthouse steps and a traditional public forum. So, an attorney by the name of Dan, I don't remember his name right now. He's a media attorney, but he got it published in the media that this is a violation of rights, and it became a big stink. So the judge there in Mesa restricted the rule to only the appellate courts. So they were only saying where there have child care, child custody proceedings, and things like that. And children are there in the appellate courts between Mesa and Tucson and Phoenix were the only two courthouses that would be affected. Inside 122.1, there is a subsection, and that subsection reads that local presiding judges can modify or add additional orders that would that they're not, as long as they're not inconsistent with 122.1, they can reasonably limit filming in a courthouse. In the Coconino County Courthouse building, I went in to find out what these reasonable limits were, what was going on with this rule. I wanted to get more information on it. I stayed in the breezeway before the security checkpoint or anything like that, and I spoke with Darren Womble, who was apparently a very new bailiff, but had been a constable for a number of years. Darren Womble didn't know how to articulate what the rule was doing. He got frustrated and he just started putting hands on. But now, once I pressed charges on him for the battery, or attempted to, I filed a report with the sheriff's office since I was county courthouse. It was kicked back to Flagstaff City, and they decided in the background to charge me with a trespass and uh, violation of court order, indirect contempt of court. And the reason being is that the local presiding judge, Dan Slayton Jr., had made a judicial order back in 2018 that banned photography anywhere in the courthouse. Even where the reason I was there was a video posted on the Facebook page for the courthouse where they had curated some old historical objects and they were displaying them in the historical area of the building. And I was going to film that, but apparently this new judicial order that wasn't properly published was what they used to find a way to charge me in the background, because nobody knew about it. Um, when the investigating officer from the Flagstaff Police Department, because that's where I got kicked to, went to the courthouse to find out what's going on, Judge Slayton's relative, I think it's his nephew, if I remember the data right. They didn't want to be forthright with that, but he's a relative of Judge Slayton. Um, Handed this judicial order over to the officer that I never interacted with at all, and said, "Here's the order he violated." And then that was taken back to the city attorney, and that's what they were using for charges. Now we've seen this happen in Texas with News Now Ninja. We've seen. I just saw a video in Chicago. I was just looking at one. Let me see what that was. That was moving into others. The meetings they don't want you to know about will be just held in that building. So if they can get any building anywhere in the government that they can hide from camera in this country. So I wanted to focus on how Arizona Court Rule 122.1, subsection, I think it's 3C, if I remember right, but it says that local presiding judges can make additional limitations that are both reasonable, that's the word they use, and not inconsistent with 122.1. Obviously, Dan Slayton banning photography from anywhere in the courthouse, even in the breezeway, asking about the ban, is not reasonable or consistent with 122.1, but that was what was done. And that's what we're seeing done in other places. So these two words, reasonable and not inconsistent or consistent, are two words that are focused on in this area. Is it reasonable to ban photography from the entire courthouse? Or is it reasonable? Is that time, is TPM, time, place, manner restrictions, reasonable when they're over encompassing? Consistency with the original order, when you have Arizona Rule 122.1 and a subsection therein giving presiding judges the authority to add additional judicial orders that are consistent with that rule, is specific. And while Judge Dan Slayton's is not consistent with 122.1 and the that was laid out there on how we can record inside courthouses and where in breezeways and common areas that are not considered to have be part of the court proceedings. There's no consistencies. But who do you go to? So I went to the Attorney General, and obviously I kick back down. So who do you go to when a judge is overstepping his boundaries? There's no published order to even see, so you don't know you're violating it, and you're shoved out the door of the Coconino County Courthouse, and then you report that to the sheriff's office, thinking you're assaulted. You are assaulted, physically assaulted, and then the Flagstaff City, a political subdivision, gets to take over the case and charge you with makeshift offenses to change the burden of liability. Who do you talk to when a presiding judge does that? Well, really, unless you're a lawyer, you're not really able to talk to any judge, right? So this puts the public uneasy on what the rules really are, and any rule is too vague to understand is not enforceable. So the Coconino County really brought out a new tactic being used to shut down cameras and open government accountability that we need to focus on. And it needs to be litigated out or dealt with in a way that is fair to those who are just walking in to inquire about the rule, which is what I was doing. I just stopped at the front door and right by the bailiff's office and asked the bailiff to talk to him about what the rule was and what was going on here. Those type of situations are not fair to the public, and they not meaningful in any type of open government or the ability to redress your grievances to your government. All of those things are being shut down, and it gives you an abysmal area at the Coconino County Courthouse there in Flagstaff. So now the county is being affected in its entirety. I don't want to go to their county courthouse. I wouldn't want to go somewhere that my cameras aren't allowed to film the interactions. They're not forthright with public records requests. They're not going to give you the camera footage that they have. So unless you have an unbiased document of the events, I would never go into their courthouse, which is why I haven't returned. I'm not going to go into a place that I can't protect myself by videotaping what happens to me in my body there, and that's the only thing we have. There's no other way to protect you against tyranny. So I look at Dan Slayton as a tyrannous judge, and the implementation of this judicial order 2018 142, I believe it is. Let me look it up real quick for you because I I did not prepare for that. Coconino County. So now this was done through Coconino County, okay, and it was a judicial order, and it was about photography, and it was by Dan Slate. And the number is for those who are interested in researching 2019-014. So it's 2019-014. And that was revised from the 2018 order, which was overbearing as well. So they keep trying to find that sweet spot where they can violate our rights and get away with it. And that is what we need to deal with now. Not only Coconino County, but it's happening in Texas now in Illinois. And I expect this to continue to be a trend where auditors are being arrested or being prosecuted for things that they seem like they're following constitutional values, well established constitutional law, and these presiding judges who are in the judicial branch of our government are putting orders in that affect people's lives who are not in their courtroom. It's hard to have contempt for a courtroom you've never been in, and that's what happened. Dan Slayton has now extended the rule to the entire courthouse, where it's a public venue, and you could be in contempt of his particular ideologies without any legislation being involved. Judges are there to interpret law; they're not there to write law. Um, the legislators try to narrowly tailor laws to meet the needs of a problem while still maintaining constitutionality. And that's where Dan Slayton, and this is going to happen more in what we call our liberal counties. I have not seen these things in many conservative areas yet. But anything that benefits tyranny is bipartisan. It doesn't matter if it's a red or a blue state. If corrupt cops and corrupt administrations can utilize it to keep secret meetings and arrest those who try to put cameras on their wrongdoings or misdeeds, they're going to do that. So there's no political partisan here. And again, it's Arizona Rule 122.1. And just for those who are researching this, let me give you subsection, the subsection, and then I will then